In this playthrough of Pokemon HeartGold, I'm not going to be using any moves in battle. No physical moves, no special moves, no status moves, nothing. And because it would be boring to PP stall every opponent while I spam potions, I won't be using items that aren't held by my Pokemon in battles either. That means my only option in a battle is to switch Pokemon. I allow the use of my emulator speed up button later in the run, or else I'd never get this video out. When picking my starter, the only thing I consider is which Pokemon my rival will end up with. I choose Cyndaquil so he gets the Pokemon that will consistently have the most physical attacks, Totodile. Without Pokeballs to catch a Pokemon and then switch into said Pokemon, the only thing I can do is run away. The problem is that after getting the Pokedex and egg to return to the professor, the rival will challenge me to a fight. Although you can lose it, under my rules I can't use a move. You can't run from a trainer battle. I have no Pokemon to switch into. I was originally going to allow items in battle, but unlike in later Pokemon games, you can't waste your turn by using an item that would have no effect, so I decided to ban them since this would have been the only reason they were allowed. The only items that would have been available at this point in the game were the ones from the Pokemart that sells potions, antidotes, and paralyze heals, and two on the ground, a potion and an antidote. You can already pick up apricorns, but the person who turns them into Pokeballs isn't available yet. Poison in this game hurts your Pokemon when you walk, so if I could somehow get my Pokemon attacked by a Spinarak that spawns at night and have it use Poison Sting, then I could lower my Pokemon's health to 1 and use an antidote to heal the poison while fainting to a scratch from Totodile, but that runs into the same problem of having to use a move. And you can't hatch the mystery egg you get at this point in the game. But you do get something else with the mystery egg, the Pokedex, and in this game when the Pokedex is unlocked, you can use Mystery Gift. Unfortunately, nothing happens if you use Mystery Gift now, but I decided to allow myself to use an action replay code to get a Pokemon that would have at one point been offered that would have also been available before the rival fight. The 10th Anniversary Mew. This was available right away without needing the national dex, so it's the perfect Pokemon for this challenge. Sorry if you think this is cheesy or cheating, but could you at one point be Pokemon HeartGold without moves, just didn't have the same ring to it. But what's so special about having two Pokemon? I can switch back and forth in the rival fight, but as soon as one faints, I'll have nothing left to do except use a move with the last one standing. The answer to that is Pokewalker. Now that I have two Pokemon, I can deposit one in the PC so I can pick it up in the Pokewalker. I will leave Mew in the PC from now on to try to keep the run as legit as possible. When using the Pokewalker, I catch two Nidorans with Poison Point. After catching the first one, I put her in the Pokewalker so she can level up with the steps while I look for the other one. With my two Nidorans, my main strategy of hope my opponent uses a physical move and switch between my two Nidorans while hoping to activate the 30% chance Poison Point officially begins. It's not that bad though. Most Pokemon in the story use physical attacks, but if they are a special attacker then, well, wish me luck tanking their attacks without healing items. For now, I eventually win the fight and move on. Poison Point works well for about 2 more battles until I have to battle teams with multiple Bellsprouts, the poison type, who can't be poisoned. I'm going to need the Pokewalker again. While looking for Magbies, I find other Pokemon on the route like Geodude and Onix, but most importantly I catch 3 Magbies. Now that I have a Magby, the rest of Sprout Tower is easy since I can now damage the opponents and they do so little damage to me. Falkner's gym features a Pidgey and Pidgeotto. The Pidgey only knows Tackle and Sand Attack, which is easy enough considering lowering my stats is useless when I switch every turn. The Pidgeotto knows 2 problem moves, Gust, which isn't a contact move, meaning if he uses it I can't burn or poison him. It also does a lot of damage, so I bring Onix to take a few not very effective hits. It also knows Roost, which will make stalling for burn damage a nightmare. At least it would if he didn't waste most of them after taking 1 instance of burn damage. But Falkner will sometimes wait for Pidgeotto to fall to half health before healing, so I'm not completely in the clear. I still take a lot of damage, but eventually win the fight when Pidgeotto runs out of roost. When fighting Team Rocket in Slowpoke well, one of the members has an Ekans who knows Wrap, a move that locks the target in battle so that they cannot switch, which last time I checked is all that I can do. You can find Ghastly in Sprout Tower at night, but I use the Pokewalker to get them since they will be a higher level. With Ghastly, I can bait the Ekans into going for Bite, which it very rarely went for before, and burn it with Contact. After that, I can switch between Ghastly and any other Pokemon to ensure that I won't get hit by Wrap. In the Bug Gym, one of the gym trainers has a Weedle with the moves Poison Sting and String Shot. Not only can Poison Sting poison me, doing lots of damage over time, it also doesn't make contact. Neither does String Shot, so it's time to PP stall. If it wasn't obvious, this is when I started allowing the use of speed-ups in my fights. During a new attempt, I continuously switched between poison types until the Weedle finally ran out of Poison Sting, and when it finally also ran out of String Shot, it begins to use Struggle. Now I can move on with my life and PP stall Kakuna out of Harden. Okay, all that's left is one Beedrill. I better burn it with Flame Body, and eventually do. After that, the battle is essentially over. In Bugsy's fight, I have to burn Scyther and slowly finish it by switching between a Ghost type and non-Ghost type to bait it into using Quick Attack. Eventually, it uses U-turn, which doesn't really accomplish anything other than getting rid of the focused energy it used earlier. Metapod only knows Tackle, so I can easily burn and stall for damage. It has Shed Skin for its ability, however, so it has a 1 in 3 chance of curing the burn. Ghastly being immune to Tackle helps me stall until the Metapod finally falls. Bugsy switches back into Scyther, who heals with a held Citrus Berry before once again using U-turn. Kakuna only knows Poison Sting, so once again I have to PP stall by switching between my Poison type Pokemon. This lowers the damage I would take from Poison and allows me to survive to the point that it uses Struggle. From this point, I can finish the fight by slowly burning the Scyther. And my Nidorans both reach level 16, meaning they evolve. The next rival fight debuts a huge hurdle for this challenge, a Ghastly with Mean Look. If he uses it, then I'm locked out of switching, and this time I can't just switch to a Ghost type Pokemon to be unaffected, as it's a normal type move that still affects Ghost type Pokemon. But he always uses Curse before Mean Look, so that gave me an idea. I went to the nearby grass and caught 2 Rattatas that I poisoned with Poison Point. After that, I moved around until the poison was cured by them being brought down to 1 HP. The reason I chose Rattata for this is because first, they're easy to catch without attacking, and secondly, they're immune to Lick, which Ghastly will likely use against low health Pokemon. Now Ghastly basically locks himself into Curse and faints after using 2. The rival still has 2 Pokemon left. The only real threat is his Croconaw, and tendency to use the special attacking move, Water Gun. If on one of the few turns that he uses a physical move he doesn't get poisoned or burned, I'm usually forced to restart the fight. After a couple more tries, I finally poison him early in the fight. To survive his onslaught of damage, I switch between Nidorans when I can because he likes to use Scary Face against them. His Zubat is barely a threat, and with him out of the way, I win the fight. I've now unlocked the Daycare, which is the fastest way that I can level up my Pokemon, and at first put in an Apom and Magby, but soon switch it so that it has 2 Apoms because pickup is pretty good level 21 onward. The next big fight is against Whitney. She starts with the Clefairy, which in theory should be pretty easy thanks to Double Slap making contact multiple times. Unluckily for me, it takes a lot more than a few double slaps to poison her, but it eventually happens. Unfortunately, she uses a super potion, but I'd rather it be used on Clefairy considering the low damage output. And it's because of that that I eventually get to her next Pokemon, but not before Metronome turns into Hail. Her Miltank is concerning. For starters, it's holding a Lumberry, which will cure a status condition. It knows a rollout that will do a ton of damage to me, especially if it hits a super effective Pokemon. And it knows Milk Drink, which will heal half of her health. At the rate I can deal damage to Miltank, that's not good. Oh, and she still has one super potion left. But she strangely never uses Milk Drink, so I guess I win. Maybe she felt bad for my defenseless Pokemon. A required fight to get to the next town has 2 Abras with Flash and Teleport, so even though I'm forced to PP stall, it's more annoying than challenging. But the trainer has another Pokemon that causes a huge problem. A Kadabra with his only attacking move being the special attack, Confusion. I can't PP stall because it does too much damage, and I can't status him since it's a special attack. I need a Dark type since they are immune to Psychic moves. The only one available at this point in the game is in the Pokewalker, so I catch 2 Murkrows there. Now the fight is winnable by literally switching between my 2 Murkrows every turn. Pokemon is a well-designed game. I'm able to catch a Growlithe after a few attempts. It has the ability Intimidate, which is extremely useful for lowering attack. There's a required double battle that isn't that hard. The only thing to note is that I always need 4 Pokemon that aren't fainted at all times so I can switch my 2 Pokemon out every turn. Fortunately, the 3rd Pokemon of mine to fainted on the turn Clefable fainted as well. Before starting the next rival fight, I go to the bug catching contest that is available on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. It just so happened that I was playing on a Saturday. I'm looking for a specific prize. The first place prize is any given evolution stone, second is an Everstone, third is a citrus berry, anything after third is a shed shell, and that's exactly what I need. With that in mind, I catch the first stupid Caterpie I see so I can lose. And hey, I don't mean to brag, but I lost the bug catching contest on my first try. The Shed Shell allows the holder to switch even if it's affected by a trapping ability or move like Mean Look. The bug catching contest isn't unlocked until after the 3rd gym, so that's why I didn't get it earlier. I give it to my Geodude and switch between him and my Magby, since of all my team members I can afford them taking curse damage the most. Unfortunately, Ghastly's health is at a point where it needs to use 3 curses before it faints, but thanks to the Shed Shell, this is possible without sacrificing necessary team slots. Next up is Croconaw, and the run is getting to the point where I can't afford not getting Poison Point or Flame Body to proc within the first couple of tries. After multiple hits, it doesn't activate, which is a loss for this attempt, so I decide to train my Nidorans a little bit before retrying. First, I need to get my Apoms back, who have become level 19 and 18, but I'm pretty low on cash since I avoid unnecessary battles. I sell some items I'll never use and pick up the now level 20 Apom. I drop off my Nidorinas and fight some of the battles that I previously skipped. I get my steps by biking around Goldenrod. Both of my Nidorinas are level 21 and I'm ready to fight my rival again. My luck still wasn't the greatest and it's not a guarantee that I get past Ghastly every time, so I decide to get another Shed Shell. It just so happened that I know how to change a clock, so I could get another one on the Sunday I was playing. Poison Point activates on the 2nd try, and I switch between Nidorinas, so he'll use Scary Face. Once again, Zubat is no issue. I can't say the same for his newest member, Magnemite. It has 2 electric and 2 normal moves that are either special attacks or status moves, so I can't status him in return. Because of this, I'm forced to PP stall, and it ends up running out of normal type moves way before electric moves, so I end up losing since I only brought 1 ground type to be immune to electric. I switch out a Magby for an Onix, so now when the Magnemite runs out of normal type moves, I can switch between my 2 ground types and wait for struggle. One of the gym trainers has 5 Ghastlys who all use Mean Look and Curse. Since each of them needs to use Curse 3 times to faint, and Curse does 25% of my health every time, I get 2 more Shell Bells to guarantee my victory. 3 works too, but still leaves a pretty large element of luck. In Morty's fight, I wait for Ghastly to finish itself off. His Gengar's only attacking moves are Sucker Punch and Shadow Ball, and with my Shell Bells I can switch between my Apoms ignoring his Mean Look, I do this until he runs out of PP and struggles. One of the Haunters mainly uses Hypnosis and Dream Eater, so I stall those moves out by switching between my Asleep Apom and Awake Magby. Eventually he'll have no choice but to use Curse. Surprise, I stall until the next one uses Curse on itself too. I catch 2 Magmars and put him in the daycare to pick up later. The battle against Chuck is a lot harder than I expected. His Pokemon are both physical attackers, with the exception of Poliwrath's Surf, and you know, the fact that he only has 2 Pokemon. He does a huge amount of damage with each attack, and I can't interrupt the 150 base power move, Focus Punch. And he has 2 Hyper Potions, effectively doubling the time each of his Pokemon are in play. If I don't proc Poison Point or Flame Body the first time Poliwrath attacks, I basically have to restart. Also, if he uses Surf, I have to restart. Intimidate is key to winning this battle. I want to switch in Growlithe as much as I can, but if Primeape uses Rock Slide or Focus Punch without at least 4 Intimidates already on him, Growlithe will faint, meaning I have to restart the fight. After many losses, it's clear that I'm going to have to change up my strategy. I catch a Stantler with Intimidate and 2 Pokemon with Water Absorb, a Quagsire and a Lapras. Now I can switch between Intimidate users and bait the enemy into using Rock Slide more often than Focus Punch with Growlithe, which Stantler doesn't faint to. If he uses Focus Punch early, I always have to restart. A successful attempt at dealing with Primeape looks like this. I lead with Growlithe and Primeape uses Double Team or Rock Slide while I switch into Stantler. I continue switching between them until his attack is -6, then I switch into Quagsire. This lowers his chance of going for Rock Slide dramatically. After Quagsire, I switch to Magby to hopefully get hit by Focus Punch and leave a burn, but as you can see that's not very reliable. So I continue to switch in Quagsire as much as I can and pivot into Magby, but unfortunately get crit and don't leave a burn. But it takes around 5 minutes to get a good attempt like this, so I don't restart, as long as I can still poison him without taking much damage. Eventually he does get poisoned, and now I switch between Nidorina and Quagsire, which locks Primeape into a loop of using Focus Punch and Rock Slide, but it will always hit a Pokemon it's not very effective against. Quagsire is essentially only in this fight to be a punching bag, so I don't mind him taking damage as long as it's not enough to knock him out. I do need at least 1 Nidorina, so I can poison the Poliwrath. Chuck will always use his Hyper Potion here, but that's not too big a deal since it's only his Primeape. I send in my Growlithe when he switches to Poliwrath. Poliwrath will use Surf since my Fire type is in, so I switch to Quagsire, healing him so I can take more hits later. I then switch to Nidorina, and luckily proc the poison. Now all I have to do is survive, which is easier said than done. I send in Growlithe to bait another Surf on Quagsire, but after that whoever I switch into will take a huge blow. I decide on Nidorina since she resists Focus Punch and make the right choice. I want Quagsire to tank damage whenever possible, since he can be healed by Water Absorb. But here we see that Poliwrath has a Citrus Berry. I continue switching around, getting so close. His health is in red, but I only have 1 Pokemon left. Also, he still had a Hyper Potion. I change my team by replacing a Nidorina for Ghastly, which makes the Primeape harder to deal with, but is worth it when I get past him, because now I can switch in Growlithe, followed by a Quagsire, followed by Magby to burn the Poliwrath. Without one of my Nidorinas, it's also less likely that I'll inflict a status condition on the Poliwrath, so it's more important that I get it the first time. Now the Poliwrath can't do anything as I switch between Quagsire and Ghastly, and eventually win. He did randomly predict my switch into Ghastly once, but it was too late in the fight to matter. For Jasmine's gym, I bring 2 ground types and a ghost type because she has 2 Magnemites that both have 2 normal moves and 2 electric moves. You might think that I should have brought 2 ghost types since she runs out of electric moves first, but she usually runs out of PP for Sonic Boom before Supersonic, and Supersonic is useless since I always switch. But even if she saves Sonic Boom for last, I can tank it with my Pokemon. The thing is, I need every slot on my team for this battle, so I'll have to manage. Earlier in the fight, I switched Growlithe in whenever I thought she'd use Thunder Wave to lower her attack. I do this for the next Magnemite too. I struggle stalled the next Magnemite while trying to make Ghastly take most of the damage since he's the most expendable for the final portion of this fight. I start by switching into Growlithe to lower Steelix's attack, then switch between Quagsire and Growlithe to continue lowering his attack while resisting his Rock-type move. After lowering his attack, I switch into Magby and luckily get the burn on the first Iron Tail. To stall, I mostly switch between my Quagsire and Magnemite since they're immune to the Sandstorm. There's still a lot that could go wrong since Steelix is holding a Citrus Berry and Jasmine still has a Hyper Potion. My Magnemite eventually faints, but I still have a lot of semi-healthy team members to switch between, and because of that, I continue to stall the Steelix and win the fight. I'm just glad I got the burn so I didn't have to PP stall 2 Magnemites again. This concludes part 1. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next part. I had to split this up since I had so much footage, and surprisingly, beating the end game without using moves isn't easy, but it is time consuming. But while you're waiting for part 2, if you like this, you might like my Pokewalker challenge where I try to beat this game in the lowest amount of steps.